Hello, welcome to my channel. This is my first ever video, so I'm just gonna get it out of the way that it's gonna be a little bit awkward. I'm super nervous, but thank you for watching. I'm Clover Calypso, artist on Instagram and now YouTube, I guess, trademark copyright. So yeah, thank you for joining me today. Thanks for watching and wanting to hear what I have to say. Today I'm going to be talking about how I have been on the A spectrum my whole life and how it took me until I was like 21 to realize that I was, and how it affected me as a kid growing up with people who weren't ace, and how I kind of saw differences in myself compared to them, and how it was super confusing and kind of embarrassing. But before I start, I just want to say happy Pride Month. I am so excited about making this video on Pride Month. I thought it was the perfect time to just kind of start making these, and hopefully with time we can get to know each other better. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So as I started to get a little bit older and I gained sentience at around 8, I started having these really intense crushes on cartoon characters, but they weren't your normal, like, average crush. They were almost, it seemed like I wanted to be like best friends with this character looking back on it, and I just didn't really understand what that meant. I had a hard time learning the difference between romantic and platonic feelings, and I didn't really know where the line was. I remember trying to talk to friends about how I felt about a character or just some show or something like that, and they would always kind of laugh, or they would bring up how I wanted to like do inappropriate things with a character, or how strange that was. Or maybe not even like say that it was strange, but just kind of bring up that fact. And I was always so confused because that was never really the case for me. I spent a lot of time kind of wondering about that and trying to force myself to be more of a sexual being than I really am. Even though I am pretty sex positive now, back whenever I was a kid, I was growing up in Christian fundamentalist church. So at that time, I kind of saw that as a bad thing, and so that extra confused me growing up. I never really understood the conversations that people would have about some of our peers being attractive or hot. I remember having sleepovers with people, and there would be times where the cutest guy in school would be brought up, and I was always just so confused because I just never really thought about it. I never thought about those kinds of things, and I remember I only had like one crush growing up, and even then it was never a crush that was like sexually motivated. So that kind of confused me. To bounce off of the conversations about some of our peers being attractive, I would say that I never really had a boy crazy or girl crazy or just like crazy phase. I never really sat around thinking about like the cute guys in boy bands or anything like that. And to add on to this, because I thought I was pansexual for a little while too, and I guess I would say I'm panromantic, but I also had fascinations with girl characters too, and that extra confused me, especially growing up in church. It was really hard to figure out who I was as a person with so many things swimming around, so many different identities, and especially the pressure of who I was expected to be. It made me feel out of place in a world where most things are centered around being sexual. A lot of media has very graphic sexual content, and my entire life I've always found it really hard to watch that sort of thing. I want to say before I keep going that this is not me saying that I don't think things like sex work or like having sexual themes in media is a bad thing, because I don't. I think it's really important to have good sexual education, and I think that it's important that everyone learns about it so that they can figure out who they are. Because I feel like if I would have learned better, if I was more well-informed growing up, I would know who I am much more deeply, because I've only really scratched the surface at this point, and I'm already an adult. I felt like that my whole life, and it can be really hard to relate to friends and even some people in your family when it feels like the world kind of caters to the opposite of who you are, and when everyone around you seems to experience attraction in a different way. And like I said, I've only really started to scratch the surface as far as who I am goes, and I'm still learning so much about the vast, colorful spectrum of human sexuality, and I find it so interesting. And I keep learning new things about myself and others, and it's just so cool to see how different everyone is. It can be a bit overwhelming too, especially whenever you don't feel like you belong. That's why the label of asexuality just really made me feel seen. And the funny thing is, because of how sheltered my upbringing was, I didn't really even consider being asexual until I was already an adult. Throughout the years, I'm really glad that I opened up and allowed myself to change and learn from the people around me. And I'm so thankful for a lot of the people I've met who are just so awesome. One of my best friends has taught me a lot about how different people can be, and even she and I, we grew up in the same type of environment as far as fundamentalism goes, but she kind of opened up my eyes to a world where you didn't have to be just a girl who marries a guy, and you don't have to be someone who is sexually motivated all the time. I'm also really thankful to some of my newer friends that I've made over the past 2 years, and my partner, who has taught me a lot about opening up and trying to learn about myself. There's a lot of things I don't think I would have figured out if it wasn't for the people around me. That's why it's important to be open to community, and that's why I think that things like Pride Month and things like the LGBTQ plus community are really good, because they are a way to share experiences, and I think those are the best way to teach people. It's the best way someone can learn, is to look at another human being's experience and say, well, if that's their truth, then how can I say it isn't there? How can I not believe that this is a valid thing whenever that's someone's true human experience? Thank you for watching. It means a lot that you care about my life experiences, and I am so thankful that you wanted to hear me talk about how I figured out that I was asexual, and how throughout my life, when I look back on it, I kind of put the pieces together and figured out who I really am. I hope that my video helped you feel seen, because you watching it does the exact same thing for me. So hopefully I can return the favor. I hope you have the best day. This has been Clover Calypso, signing off.